Pan poseł Agnew.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agnew.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the Commission actually for giving a good briefing on this disease, African swine fever, for which they say there is no vaccine. So it's obviously very, very serious. And I'd particularly like to thank my colleague here from Lithuania, where he has had first-hand experience of the disease, and it points out a scenario that could well happen. Now, he mentioned that when this huge pig unit near him in Lithuania closed down, there was a lot of unemployment. And if I was a pigman working on one of those units that had closed down, my instinct would be to look for another job as a pigman somewhere else, and I might well go to the United Kingdom. And it's quite conceivable that this disease can be carried on clothing. So we could get this disease by default into the United Kingdom through somebody who's worked on a pig farm in Lithuania or Poland, then working on one in the United Kingdom. And there's nothing we can really do to stop that. So I would urge, please, the Member States concerned to let their agricultural workforces know that if they are going to move to a farm elsewhere, that they could be a biosecurity risk and to take the appropriate measures. Because if they bring African swine fever into Britain, the pig farm they work on will close down. So it's very much in their interests to make sure that they're squeaky clean. What I can also do is to alert our Minister of Agriculture to the fact that tourists going to these beautiful forests in Eastern Europe could come into contact with where wild boar have been and bring the disease back unwittingly. So we do have a serious problem here, and my sincere commiserations to the MEP from Lithuania. This is very, very serious. Thank you.
And one final sentence to Mr. Agnew, who was talking about Polish tourists. He was worrying about Polish tourists coming to the UK. Pig rearers are not necessarily the most common tourists, and it's very rare to meet a Polish pig farmer tourist.
O poszukiwaniu pracy.
Mr. Agnew was talking, I think, about people going to look for work.
Yes, correct, Chairman. I was not talking about Polish tourists to Britain. I was talking about redundant Polish pig workers seeking work on pig farms in Britain, and I was talking about British tourists going to forests in Poland and Lithuania and unsuspectingly picking up infection from wild boars there. There may have been problems with the interpretation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of questions here covering the entire spectrum of my presentation. But let me first start with the beginning. We mentioned Mozambique several times. The origin, yes, indeed. The disease entered Georgia through the rest of the kitchen of a boat coming from Mozambique. And that food was not heat-treated or destroyed as it should be. You know that even in the European Union we have very strict rules, and the rest of food which are coming by plane or by boat into the European Union cannot be used in the European Union. It has to be destroyed at the border. The same goes for import of meat, personal import, personal introduction. You are not allowed to bring back a sandwich or a piece of ham or milk or cheese from outside the European Union, because those products can carry disease. And I should highlight again that the outbreak in the UK of foot and mouth disease, which was a big epidemic in 2001, where we killed, if I well remember, 8 million of sheep in the UK, came also from illegal swill feeding next to Newcastle, also swill coming from a boat, which was not destroyed as it should be. So we know that import of products is very dangerous, and that's why we have very strict rules in place, being for import, legal import, or being for what the passengers bring with them. And I should highlight in that context that pork meat is only allowed to be imported in the EU from 8 third countries around the world. So highlighting here the strict import conditions that we have, but illegal activities will remain illegal activities. But that's not the case with this outbreak, where wild animals, wild fauna are the origin of the disease, and we had the experience of avian influenza several times where wild bird carried H5N1, or even end of last week in the UK, H7N7, I think, which destroyed also a flock of chicken in England. So we know that wild animals can carry disease, and that's more and more the case, the other disease being eradicated and for which we have very strict control in place. So the big farm in Lithuania was mentioned by Mr. Rappe. Indeed, that's a mystery for us. Biosecurity was indeed very high in this farm, but we know also that people did enter the farm 10 days ago in a mission, and we know perfectly how virulent this virus can remain in the wild. And some have mentioned the fact that boots can carry the virus and transmit the virus from the forest to backyards. Yes, indeed. And that's why we highlighted the issue of biosecurity, which is very important. Biosecurity at the level of the farm, but also biosecurity for the people which go in the forest, which work in the forest during the weekend. Those boots can carry the virus, and that's why we have spent more than €4 million in the last 3 years to increase the awareness not only of the farmers, not only of the veterinarians, but also for the normal citizen who go in the forest during the weekend. Personal import is an important issue, and some of the people mentioned the people which are entering the union with sandwich in their bag. That is not legal. They are not allowed to do that, and we have, for this purpose, we have also asked the member states to increase the awareness in the border post and highlight that through various awareness campaign at the border, that people cannot enter the EU with such food. It is indeed a very serious disease where, as I mentioned earlier, biosecurity is the key issue. So are we doing enough? I don't know if we are doing enough, but we can't do much more as what we did so far. We have sent more inspection, more scientific advice, in this case to the 4 member states, that we ever did with any other epidemic in the EU. Our inspectors went there more than 15 times. Experts from the FAO and OIE went several times in each of the affected member states, and our training program also organized big events in the 4 affected member states to highlight the awareness. The EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority, which gives advice to the Commission, has worked non-stop on the issue, and they delivered again an advice in the next days, which will be used to fine-tune our response to the disease. Now, in relation to the zones, and I've mentioned that after the summer we will revise the zoning that we have applied so far. We expect a peak of the disease during the summer, when the young wild boar will move out of their flock. They will look around, and that might be a source of further spread of the disease. So we wait until after the summer to revise the existing zone. So the restrictions in place, and we have discussed that with the 4 ministers last Friday in Lithuania, we will allow movement of product between the zone of the same status in the different member states, which was not allowed so far. So products from the pink zone in Poland will be able to move to the pink zone in Lithuania, and vice versa. Of course, the embargo, the Russian embargo, was a big surprise to us, and we have reacted as much as we can, and I cannot accept the argument that we have not reacted to that embargo I mentioned during my presentation. It is the first time in the history of the European Union that we are launching a case in the SPS area against a third country for not applying the principles laid down in the Animal Health World Organization Code, where regionalization is foreseen. And as I mentioned, we expect the results of the panel to deliver at the beginning of next year. Other embargo from third country, and those concern especially Poland, where several third countries have banned the entire territory of Poland for the export of pig meat. We are also fighting against that, and we are especially fighting with Japan at the moment. And if you're aware, I suppose you know that even the Polish minister went to Japan a few weeks ago to argue the case also. We are trying to do our best. There are already certain third countries which have accepted our regionalization, those which have banned, but there are also big third countries which fully trust us, which have not taken any measures, and I would like to mention Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand. Those countries have not taken any measures against the European Union, knowing perfectly that the principle of regionalization is well applied in the EU and that they can trust our export. I should highlight here that the restrictions that we have in the three zones, so the red, the pink and the blue one, are also applicable for our export to third countries. So we are not exporting to third countries products which are not allowed to move freely throughout the EU, and I should pay tribute to those third countries, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, but there are others which have not taken any measures and for which Polish product can still travel or can still be exported. Vaccination, that will be, I think, my last word. At the moment, there is no vaccine available. And there has been a lot of research for that vaccine. Over the last 30, 40 years, there is continuous research. The 7th Framework Programme has devoted €11 million to that research even over the last few years. The problem is that the scientists cannot find antigens which induce the development of antibodies, and so far no vaccine is available. And as I mentioned earlier, the scientists do not see in the close future the possibility of the development of the vaccine, but we will continue to work on that. We will also continue to financially support the member states affected, and I've said we have already spent €18 million over the last 3 years. We will continue to do that in the next years, including for measures which are not usually financed in the veterinary sector. I mentioned awareness campaign, but I should also mention the wild boar issue, so the fact that you collect the wild boar or you test the wild boar, those are issues that we will also co-finance in the near future. I think with that I covered most of the issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.